Ashley was sitting on the couch, her legs tucked under her, and nervously tapping her nails on the phone screen. On the other end of the line was her best friend, Jennifer. Jennifer's voice sounded energetic and convincing. Ash, you don't understand. This is not just a way out of a routine. It's a way to find yourself and bring passion back into your relationship, she assured me. Ashley bit her lip. She was looking at photos taken a few years ago. There she and Michael were beaming with happiness on the beach, hugging each other. Everything seemed so simple then. But now, after 8 years of marriage, the fire between them has died out. Are you sure this is going to work? What is it? She finally asked. I'm sure. Look at me and Steven. He was doubtful at first too, but now we have the best marriage of our lives. The main thing is to explain that this is temporary. He will not only understand, but also support you if you submit everything correctly. Ashley knew that Jennifer wasn't the type to throw words to the wind. Her friend was confident in herself and always got her way. But the idea sounded wild. Nevertheless, there was a magnetic confidence in Jennifer's words that made her think. Okay, she said softly, considering the plan. I'll talk to him. Tonight after dinner. Ashley felt like she was on pins and needles all day. She made Michael's favorite dish, shrimp pasta and cream sauce. The dinner was held in a calm atmosphere. They were discussing the day, laughing at some funny video that Michael had shown her on her phone. When everything was cleaned up and Michael sat down on the couch with a bottle of beer, Ashley gathered all her courage, sat down next to him, cleared her throat and said, Michael, we need to talk. He looked at her with slight concern but did not interrupt. I know this is going to sound unexpected, she began, feeling her palms become wet with excitement. But I thought we could try something new for our marriage. Is there something new? He raised an eyebrow. Do you want to get a dog or go on vacation? Ashley smiled, trying to hide her awkwardness. Not really. It's more like that, a temporary experiment. She began to explain, avoiding direct wording, trying to present the idea as a way to revive their relationship. Michael listened to her with surprise at first, then frowned. Wait a minute. Are you saying you're going to date other men? What is it? He asked, putting down the beer bottle. Ashley felt the heat rise to her face. She nodded, afraid to meet his eyes. It's only temporary, Michael. Just to refresh your senses. We'll come back to each other later stronger than ever. He was silent. The silence between them was deafening. Ashley saw Michael clench his fists and his gaze turn cold. And do you think this will help our marriage? He finally said. Yes, she managed to say. Jennifer told me that it worked for her. Michael abruptly got up from the couch and walked around the room, thinking about her words. Then he stopped, turning to her. If it's that important to you, I'm not going to stop you, he said, but there was a strange detachment in his voice. Ashley didn't know whether to be happy or afraid. Thanks, Michael. Means a lot to me. But I have one condition, he continued. She tensed, expecting the worst. While you're doing your experiments, I'm moving into the spare bedroom. His words made her flinch. Why? She whispered. Because I can't share a bed with a man who is deliberately destroying what we built together, Michael said with cold determination. Ashley wanted to object but couldn't find the right words. She watched as Michael headed for the stairs to pack his things. There was something iron and unshakable in his back. Michael walked up the stairs, feeling a dull anger boiling in his chest. He tried to control himself, but every word Ashley said echoed coldly in his head. She wanted to experiment, date other men, and expected him to accept it as something normal. Opening the closet in their bedroom, Michael began methodically removing his clothes from the hangers. His movements were calm, almost automatic. He folded each shirt carefully into a suitcase, taking care not to leave any creases. A few minutes later, Ashley appeared in the doorway. Are you going already? What is it? She asked uncertainly, as if she didn't expect him to take her words seriously. Michael looked back at her, his face unreadable. Yes. You said you wanted to try something new. So I'm creating a space for you to do this, he said in a flat voice, returning to his business again. Ashley watched him, trying to read his mind. His calmness scared her more than if he had started screaming. Michael, this is temporary. You understand that, don't you? She tried to explain. He closed the suitcase and looked at her. Of course, he replied with a dry smile. Everything we do in life is temporary. These words silenced her. She felt a shiver run down her spine, but she forced herself not to panic. If you want, we can talk again. I don't want you to think it's easy for me, she added softly. There's no need. Michael picked up his suitcase from the floor, heading out of the bedroom. Ashley took a step forward but stopped, feeling like she didn't know how to continue. I just want you to be happy, she finally managed. Michael stopped in the doorway, turned to her and said, Are you happy? Ashley, if this is your version of happiness, then I may not be the right person to give it to you. He turned around and walked away, leaving her alone. Ashley heard the spare bedroom door close softly. She was lying in their empty bed, staring at the ceiling. The thoughts in my head were changing each other at breakneck speed. She hadn't expected Michael to react so calmly. It's even worse than if he yelled at her. There was something frightening about his cold reserve. Ashley decided that the morning would be better. Maybe they can discuss it calmly over breakfast. But in the morning the house was strangely quiet. Ashley slowly went downstairs. She noticed that Michael's keys were missing from the hanger by the front door. His favorite jacket wasn't hanging on the hook. There were no shoes in the corner, which were always there, as if to remind him of his habits. Her stomach turned cold. Ashley automatically went into the kitchen to check the coffee machine. She was clean, not even a drop of water in the tank. It was another sign. Michael always left it full. She went back upstairs to the spare bedroom. The bed was made with military precision. The chest of drawers is empty. I opened the closet, his clothes were gone. Even those old t-shirts that he only wore at home were gone. In a panic, Ashley took out her phone and dialed his number. The beeps sounded for too long, as if mocking her anxiety. Then the answering machine. Michael, it's me. Please call me back as soon as you can, she said in a broken voice and dropped the call. An hour has passed. Ashley was rushing around the house, her thoughts were confused. She went through all the rooms, checking to see if any detail could indicate where he had gone. Her fingers fidgeted with the contacts on her phone until she settled on Jennifer's name. Jennifer, he's gone, Ashley said as soon as her friend answered. What do you mean, gone? Jennifer asked. He's gone. I took all my things. I can't get through to him. Calm down. It's just his way of showing that he's upset. You didn't think he would calmly agree, did you? So he's trying to scare you. Scare you? Ashley looked back at the empty room. There's not a single one of his things left here, January. It doesn't sound like a joke. Ashley, you have to pull yourself together, Jennifer said urgently. Be patient. He'll be back soon. It's okay. Sometimes men make small protests, but they always come back. The main thing is not to call him first. Let him feel that you are in control. Ashley wasn't sure she wanted to play these games. She hung up the phone, feeling that the situation was getting out of control. By evening, she tried to contact their mutual friends. First on the list was Brian, Michael's best friend. Hi, Brian. Have you seen Michael? What is it? She asked, trying to speak calmly. There was a pause on the other end before he answered. No, Ashley. I do not know where he is. But there was something in his voice that made her uneasy. Are you sure? If he calls, tell him I'm worried, okay? Of course, Brian replied dryly, and the line ended. She called several more of Michael's friends and relatives, but each time she heard the same thing. Either they didn't know anything or they kept quiet. Michael drove along the highway, holding the steering wheel tightly. He felt betrayed, disappointed, and angry. Scenes of their past lives were spinning in my head. First dates, trips together, laughter, late-night conversations. And now all this has been destroyed by her words about a temporary experiment. He parked at the nearest gas station, got out of the car and took a deep breath of cold air. After a few minutes he took out his phone and dialed a number. Hi, this is Michael, he said, trying to keep his voice level. Do you remember when you said you had a spare room? Is she still available? The voice on the other end of the line agreed, and Michael nodded, despite the fact that his interlocutor could not see the gesture. Good. I'll come by tonight, he said and hung up the phone. Ashley spent the night sitting on the edge of the bed. She put her head in her hands, trying to figure out what to do next. Where could he have gone? Why doesn't anyone want to help her? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a car outside the window. She rushed to the window, but it was only the neighbor's Honda. She went back to the phone, dialed Michael's number again, but the answering machine was still answering instead. Late at night, Michael was finishing putting his things away in a small room on the other side of town. He rented it from his old friend. The room was simple but cozy. There was a desk in the corner and a small bed next to it. Michael sat down on a chair and picked up the phone, staring at the screen for a long time. He had a message written for Ashley, but he never clicked on send. Instead, he turned off the phone and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. There was rage inside him, but he knew that the main thing right now was to stay calm. He had a plan and he was going to make it happen. Meanwhile, Ashley decided to act. She put on her coat, grabbed her keys and left the house. She drove through several addresses of friends, those she knew. It's the same everywhere, no footprints. When she returned home, she was exhausted but still determined. She needed to find something, at least one clue. For the next week, she continued to search. She drove around motels, looked at parking lots, hoping to see his car. But Michael seemed to disappear into thin air. She called him every day. The same answering machine every time. She left messages that became increasingly desperate. And yet, there was a growing feeling in her soul that this was not just a disappearance. She began to realize that Michael wasn't going to come back, at least not on her terms. The morning began with an intrusive doorbell. Ashley, tired after a sleepless night, barely made it to the door. Her mind was still wandering around Michael and his mysterious disappearance. Ashley, still wearing her pajamas, opened the door and came face to face with Jennifer. She was standing on the threshold in her perfectly pressed suit, holding a large glass of coffee in her hands. "You look terrible," Jennifer said, looking at her friend. "Thanks for the compliment," Ashley muttered, letting her into the house. "Look, I know this whole thing with Michael has thrown you off track, but you have to pull yourself together. You have a job, and that's the most important thing right now," Jennifer said as she walked over to the kitchen table. Ashley nodded but didn't answer. She barely gathered the strength to drink a cup of coffee before going to the office. When Ashley entered the company building, it seemed to her that her colleagues, usually friendly, barely glanced at her. Their whispers accompanied her all the way to her workplace. "Something's not right here," she muttered, taking off her coat. "Didn't you notice?" She heard a whisper behind her. It was Jennifer, who had already looked at the general mailing list. "It looks like we're going to have a big meeting at 10 a.m. And you're on the guest list." Ashley frowned. Such sudden meetings did not bode well. "It's weird." "It's kind of scary," Jennifer added, sitting down on the edge of her desk. By 10 in the morning, Ashley had already managed to come up with 100 options for what could be discussed. She entered the executive office, where Eric and Kevin were already sitting. Their faces looked pale and their gazes avoided her. In the corner of the room was the company's lawyer with a bulky folder in his hands, and opposite him was Mr. Harper, the head of the department. To Ashley's surprise, Jennifer was sitting at the table on the right. Her presence gave her a false sense of confidence. "Have a seat, Ashley," Harper said with a tired look. She sat up, trying to keep her face straight despite the strange tension in the room. "What's going on here?" "What is it?" she asked, trying to remain calm. Harper exchanged glances with the lawyer, then began to speak. "We have learned that there were activities at the workplace that were incompatible with company policy. This concerns your behavior as well as the behavior of Mr. Eric and Kevin." Ashley felt her palms start to sweat. "What are you talking about?" The lawyer opened a folder and put several documents on the table, among which were photographs and screenshots. "We received an anonymous lawsuit. It claims that you used the company's working hours and resources for personal meetings, creating a toxic work environment," he began, showing photos of her and Kevin leaving the company's warehouse after their entertainment in the warehouse. Ashley flushed. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said sharply, looking at Harper. "It doesn't seem like a misunderstanding when we have complaints from other employees who feel uncomfortable about your behavior," he said, trying to remain calm. "Complaints? From whom?" Jennifer interjected, her voice firm and confident. "The plaintiff chose to remain anonymous," the lawyer replied. Eric, who had been sitting silently up to this point, suddenly slammed his fist on the table. "It's a trap. Someone is deliberately trying to frame us." "Eric, calm down," Ashley whispered, but his words were already in the air. "The company has no choice. To avoid further problems, we have to suspend you all with immediate dismissal," Harper said, folding his hands on the table. Ashley felt the ground slipping away from under her feet. When they left the office, Jennifer grabbed her elbow. "We need to talk," she said, and pulled Ashley toward the warehouse. "This is crazy," Ashley exclaimed when they stopped. "Who could do that?" "I do not know," Jennifer replied. "But it's definitely not a coincidence. Someone clearly had a purpose." Ashley covered her face with her hands. "Now I don't have a job. There is no husband. Got nothing." "You can still handle it," Jennifer said. "We have lawyers. We can fight." But there was an uncertainty in Jennifer's voice that Ashley had never heard before. No matter how hard Ashley tried to stay afloat, circumstances inexorably destroyed everything she was trying to save. Jennifer's attempts to reassure her sounded weaker and weaker, and the prospect of a legal fight with the company seemed increasingly futile. A week after the meeting with Harper, the office received a notification: the official dismissal of all parties involved with immediate effect. It was a blow that no one expected, even Jennifer, who always remained optimistic. "The scandal has spread beyond the company. Soon, rumors spread in their local community that employees of a large firm had been fired for unprofessional behavior. None of them could get a job in a decent company anymore. Ashley tried to find a job, but at every interview her past came out. Her resume had been lying around for weeks without arousing the interest of employers. Jennifer, who always looked like she had everything under control, couldn't handle it this time. Her reputation, always impeccable, was ruined. She lost all business contacts, and even her old friends turned away from her. Ashley returned home alone, feeling completely overwhelmed. Now she had no job, no support. Even Michael, who had once been her salvation, refused to come back into her life. His last response to her letter was simple. "I don't want to see you anymore." Ashley stared at the screen for a long time, feeling a void grow in her chest. She lost everything, because of her selfishness, because of her mistakes, because of her belief in false advice. Now she could only try to piece her life back together, but every move was difficult. And although it seemed that there was nowhere to fall lower, Ashley still decided that she would look for a way to restore the relationship that she had destroyed. Ashley was sitting in the kitchen, staring at an empty laptop screen. She had already tried once again to write a letter to Michael, but the words did not fit on the page. Every time she started, her thoughts jumped from guilt to anger, from despair to hope. Gathering her courage, she wrote, "Michael, I realize that I made a huge mistake. I allowed myself to get carried away by other people's ideas, forgetting about what is really important. It was not only a mistake, but also a betrayal of everything we had built together. You didn't deserve this, and I'm sorry. I am ready to do anything to regain your trust. Please give me a chance to prove that I can change." Ashley reread the text several times, added a couple more lines, then clicked send. Now all she had to do was wait again. His first response came a few weeks later. It was a short, concise email. "Ashley, I've read all your letters. Words are not enough. If you really want to get it all back, start with action. I'll be watching. Michael." She reread the letter several times. It was more than she had expected, but much less than she had hoped. "Okay, Michael," she whispered to herself. "Do you want action? You'll get them." The first few weeks were the hardest ordeal of her life. Michael did not get in touch, but judging by his rare messages, he watched her actions. He demanded that she write a list of things she was willing to change about herself. Ashley sat over this list all night, trying to be as honest as possible. She pointed out everything from correcting her self-confidence to completely rejecting Jennifer's influence. At the end of the list she wrote, "I'm ready to give you control over our relationship. I understand that I have destroyed them, and I am ready for any of your conditions." Her fingers trembled as she sent the letter. Michael called her a month later. It was the first time she had heard his voice since that evening. "Are you free tomorrow night?" he asked without unnecessary emotion. "Yes," Ashley replied, barely able to contain her excitement. "Good. We'll meet at the Willow Street restaurant at 7. Don't be late." The evening turned out to be cool, but Ashley, ignoring the cold, stood at the entrance to the restaurant 10 minutes before the appointed time. Her hands were nervously fiddling with the strap of her bag. Michael showed up at 7 sharp. He looked as collected and confident as ever. "Hi," she said, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. "Hi," he replied shortly, gesturing for her to enter. At dinner, the conversation was restrained. Michael asked questions about her changes, her job, or more precisely, her job search after she was fired, and how she now views their relationship. Ashley answered honestly, trying to show that she understood her mistakes. "Are you ready to change everything?" "What is it?" he asked, looking intently into her eyes. "Yes," she replied firmly. "Good. Then I will have conditions." She nodded, feeling her heart begin to pound harder. Michael's conditions were simple but demanding. He wanted complete control in their relationship. Ashley had to follow his instructions without discussion. She agreed, knowing that this was the only way to get him back. At first it was unusual. Michael told her how she should dress, what to do in her free time. He even forbade her to communicate with Jennifer. This decision was the hardest for her, but she knew it was for the best. Several months have passed. Ashley tried her best. She learned to listen to Michael, to fulfill his requests without objections. Gradually he began to call more often, to come to her house. Their conversations became warmer, and the atmosphere between them became softer. But she understood that this was only the beginning of the path. Her every step was closely watched, and she knew that any mistake she made could be her last. Ashley woke up to the soft sound of the alarm clock on the bedside table. She reached out, but as soon as her hand touched the blanket, the bedroom door opened a crack. Michael stood in the doorway, dressed in a business suit, with a cup of coffee in his hands. "You overslept," he said shortly, putting the cup down on the table. Ashley stood up in a flash. She knew that punctuality was expected of her. "I'm sorry, she began, but Michael held up his hand, interrupting her. "Don't make excuses. Just start the day right. You have 10 minutes to be ready." He left as suddenly as he appeared, leaving her in a state of intense fuss. 10 minutes later, Ashley was standing in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Michael was reading a newspaper at the table, and from time to time he cast brief glances in her direction, as if checking whether she was doing everything as he expected. "The coffee should be hot next time," he said, lifting the cup to his lips. "Yes, of course," Ashley replied, avoiding his gaze. It was a new ritual of their morning communication. Michael dictated and she listened, trying to correct herself. After breakfast, Michael got up, picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. "I'll be home at 8 tonight. Make sure dinner is ready. We will discuss the list of tasks." Ashley nodded. "Of course." The door slammed shut, leaving her in silence. She sank into a chair and covered her face with her hands for a second. Her life had changed beyond recognition, but she felt she was doing the right thing to save their marriage. The day was spent cleaning, shopping and planning dinner. Ashley no longer worked. Michael insisted that she stay at home, devoting herself entirely to housekeeping. This decision seemed strange to her at first, but over time she realized that it had its own logic. By 8 o'clock the house was shining clean, and there was a hot dish on the table. Ashley changed into the dress Michael had chosen for her a few days ago. She straightened her hair in front of the mirror and froze when she heard the sound of the door opening. "Hi," she said as Michael entered the dining room. He nodded without answering, sat down at the table and began to eat dinner. Ashley was watching him, ready to do whatever he asked. After dinner they moved into the living room. Michael took out his laptop and opened a document he called the task list. "So, what did you do today?" "What is it?" he asked without taking his eyes off the screen. Ashley listed all her chores from grocery shopping to laundry. "Good," he said, making notes. "You need to meet my brother tomorrow. He's going to take me to the game this weekend, and I want you to help him get the car ready." "Of course," she replied, writing down the assignment in her notebook. That night, when they were already in bed, Michael spoke again. "You're doing great. But I still see traces of that pride in you that almost ruined our marriage." Ashley froze, not knowing what to say. "I want you to understand that this order is not a punishment. It's a way to save us." She nodded, feeling a warm feeling rise in her chest. "I understand, Michael. Thanks for giving me a second chance." His hand rested on her shoulder. "We will work on it. Together." Several months have passed. Ashley got used to the new rhythm of life. Her days were scheduled to the smallest detail, and although she no longer made independent decisions, she felt calm. One evening, Michael invited her to dinner at a restaurant. It was unexpected. Such exits have become rare. "You deserve it," he said as they sat at a table. Ashley smiled. "Thanks, Michael." He took her hand. "I'm glad that you finally understood what true devotion is." Ashley felt her eyes fill with tears. "I've always loved you," she whispered. Michael looked at her with a warmth she hadn't seen in so long. "Me too, Ashley." 2 years have passed. The house where Michael and Ashley lived has become a symbol of their new life. Everything here was orderly, as was their marriage. Every object had its place. Every action had its purpose. Ashley has learned not only to accept Michael's rules, but also to find a kind of security in them. She no longer thought about the fact that she had once fought for her independence. Now she was glad that Michael had become the mainstay in her life. His confidence and control gave her a sense of stability that she missed so much. Monthly progress discussions have become one of the new rituals. That evening, as always, Michael sat down at the table with his laptop. Ashley, neatly dressed in the dress he had chosen for her, served tea and sat down opposite. "So, Ashley, let's summarize," he began. She opened her notebook to list all the things she had done in the last month. Her voice was confident, although sometimes she glanced at him, trying to catch his reaction. Michael listened attentively, nodding occasionally. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Good job," he said, closing his laptop. "I see you're trying." Ashley felt a warm feeling spreading inside her. "Thanks, Michael." He came up to her, put his hands on her shoulders. "You made the right choice, Ashley. You've proven that you can change." She looked at him and said softly, "It's all for us." "Exactly," he replied. It seemed that their lives had entered into a perfect rhythm. But deep down, Ashley felt that there was something more behind the calmness. She knew that their relationship would never be equal again. But she also knew that this was her price for a second chance. When Michael announced one evening that he wanted them to move into a new house, she didn't mind. "This is a new stage for us," he said. The house was bigger and more modern. Ashley set about arranging it, following Michael's instructions. Her life now revolved around making him happy. A few more years have passed. Ashley was sitting on the terrace of their new home, watching Michael play in the garden with their son. It was the picture of calm that she had been looking for so long. When Michael approached her, he held out his hand to help her up. "Are you happy?" "What is it?" he asked, looking into her eyes. She nodded. "Yes, I'm happy." And it was true. There were no more doubts or regrets inside her. She found her place in the world, even if it wasn't the one she once dreamed of. Michael hugged her, and Ashley allowed herself to smile. She may have lost equality in their marriage, but she has found a family. And that was the most important thing for her. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.